Happy Pi Day, and welcome to Pi Phase 2. At Pi Network, we believe that everyday people deserve a greater voice and a greater share of the value they create in society. To achieve those goals, our team of Stanford PhDs came together to make cryptocurrency more accessible for everyday people. The result is a new cryptocurrency called Pi that you can mine from your phone. We launched Phase 1 on Pi Day 2019 with the goal of reaching 1 million pioneers. Less than a year later, we are already over 3.5 million pioneers strong. Now that we've built this large global community, we are launching Phase 2 of the project. Phase 2 has two goals. The first is building value with an applications platform. The second is decentralizing the network by building testnet. To build value, we will create an apps platform where third-party developers can create applications that scale healthy transactions of Pi. To decentralize the network, we will build Pi's testnet and release the first version of Pi's node software, which will eventually allow everyday people to validate Pi's transactions. Our intent is to make the Pi nodes people-friendly and accessible to everyone. We are proud of the diverse global community that we have built over Phase 1. Here are just a few of the pioneers that will help make Phase 2 a success.
Welcome to Pi Phase 2 and Happy Pi Day in Swahili.
سلام
روز پای مبارک به فاز تو خوش آمدید.
Happy Pi Day. Welcome to Phase 2.
圆周率日快乐，欢迎进入派第二阶段，耶！
Gelukkige Pierdag en welkom bij fase 2.
Happy Pi Day! Welkom bij Pi Fase 2.
Nasi kukunjema ya Pi. Karibu kwa amu ya pili ya Pi. Bienvenue and happy Pi Day.